All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're looking at the fascinating science of how mere groups of people transform into highly effective, synergistic work teams. We've all been part of groups before, right? But achieving true team synergy, wow, that is a completely different ballgame. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack for you today. Let's kick things off with the absolutely astonishing true story of the MIT Blackjack Club. Picture this. A group of former MIT students who use their crazy mathematical abilities, expert training, clearly defined roles, and just flawless teamwork to legitimately take millions of dollars from major casinos over 10 years. Millions! Now, okay, most groups aren't formed to take down Las Vegas, obviously, but the sheer success of this group's execution, that is literally what managers dream of for their own workspaces. It's the ultimate example of a team hitting on all cylinders. So, here is our blueprint for today. We're going to cover 4 key areas. First, defining a true work team. Second, the stages of team formation. Third, characteristics of effective teams. And finally, traits of effective team members. Let's get into it. Section 1. Defining a true work team. Before we can really understand teams, we've got to define a baseline group. Simply put, a group is just 2 or more interacting and independent individuals coming together to achieve specific goals. This can be super formal, like a heavily structured department at work, or entirely informal, like a few coworkers who regularly grab lunch together. They're interacting, they're independent, but they are just a group. Now here's where it gets interesting, because there is a stark contrast between a work group and a true work team. A work group primarily exists to just share information and make decisions to help each individual do their own job better. The synergy there is pretty neutral, and the accountability, it's purely individual. But true work teams, they generate this magical, positive synergy through coordinated effort. In a real work team, the collective performance is genuinely greater than the sum of its individual parts. It's like a multiplier effect. And crucially, members hold themselves mutually accountable for the final outcome. You win together, you lose together. Section 2. The stages of team formation. We want you to think back to your classic, dreaded school group project for a second as we walk through Tuckman's 5 distinct stages of group development. We always begin with the forming stage. This is marked by a ton of uncertainty as members kind of test the waters. Next up comes storming. This is that period of inevitable conflict over who actually controls the group and what the direction's going to be. But once that hierarchy is settled, we hit norming, where close relationships start to develop and the group becomes highly cohesive. Finally, the group enters the performing stage, where everyone is completely dialed in and focusing entirely on the task at hand. Oh, and for temporary groups, there's a final adjourning stage as they wrap up the whole shebang and disband. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the absolutely crucial point is that this life cycle isn't always perfectly sequential. Teams are incredibly dynamic entities. Sometimes they might actually regress to an earlier stage, and sometimes groups are actively storming and performing at the exact same time. It's wild, but it happens. This is a general framework, not some rigid set of rules, and it really just helps us understand the natural growing pains of collaboration. Section 3. Characteristics of effective teams. Okay, to really understand ideal team size, look no further than Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and his famous 2-pizza rule. His philosophy dictates that an optimal team should be small enough to be completely fed by just 2 pizzas. Simple, right? And it turns out, this quirky rule perfectly aligns with hard research. Studies show that the most effective teams generally consist of just 5 to 9 members. Keeping the team small like this is absolutely vital because it helps maintain agility, it minimizes interpersonal friction, and it ensures that basic coordination doesn't become this massive logistical nightmare. But hey, it's not just about size. The organization itself has to provide specific contextual elements for a team to actually thrive. Think about it. They need adequate resources, like timely information and proper equipment. They need clear leadership and structure to fit everyone's individual skills together like a giant puzzle. Crucially, they need a deep climate of trust. Trust facilitates cooperation and means you don't need constant over-the-shoulder monitoring. Finally, the performance evaluation and reward systems absolutely must value joint accountability, not just individual accountability. Because think about it, if the system only rewards individual rock stars, true teamwork is going to collapse instantly. We also have to look at the process, specifically how the team handles conflict. Now, you might be thinking all conflict is bad, but that's not true. While relationship conflict, the stuff based on interpersonal tension, is almost always toxic, Effective teams actually require what we call task conflict. Disagreements about the actual content of the task are beneficial. Why? Because they stimulate debate, force members to critically assess problems, and ultimately lead to much better, more thoroughly vetted decisions. Section 4. Traits of effective team members. Zooming in to the individual level, a team needs members who bring 3 vital skills to the table. First, they obviously need the baseline technical expertise to actually do the job. Second, they need the cognitive ability to solve complex problems and make sound decisions. And third, and this is huge, they absolutely must have the vital interpersonal skills to navigate complex team dynamics. If you're missing even one of these 3 pillars, the team just cannot reach its full potential. Furthermore, psychological research reveals that specific Big 5 personality traits are highly predictive of a team's success. High levels of conscientiousness and an openness to new experiences lead to much higher team performance. But agreeableness is also completely critical here. In fact, the data shows that adding even one highly disagreeable member to a group can completely derail its performance. We've all had that frustrating experience, haven't we? Just one bad apple spoiling the whole bunch. Finally, effective team members actively avoid a very common psychological trap known as social loafing. What's that? Well, it's basically the natural human tendency to expend just a little less effort when you're working in a group compared to when you're working all by yourself. High-performing teams minimize this by making absolutely sure that members are held both individually and jointly accountable for the team's overarching goals. There's no hiding in the back row. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to help you evaluate your own collaborative workspaces. So ask yourself, is your current group truly a team, operating with that magical positive synergy? Or are you really just a group of individuals sharing information? Think about it. Use these insights on formation, structure, and individual traits to completely revolutionize the way you and your colleagues work together.